Welcome back to DecoyNoise, where today we're doing 3 more stories from r/Am I the A-Hole. But as always, we have to give out today's ever-coveted Decoy coin to today's winner, Justin Jones Smith. Justin Jones Smith has been a long-time Decoy Pond member who always gives great feedback to every single story, but also replies to other people's comments, keeping the conversation alive. So if you want to win the Decoy coin just like Justin Jones Smith, make sure you subscribe down below, make sure you turn on those notifications, and make sure you let me know in the comment section that you want to be a part of that Decoy Pond. But getting to today's featured post is, am I the antagonist for leaving the call when my brother announced that his girlfriend is pregnant? OP writes, my brother and I do not get on. When we were younger, he'd go out of his way to make my life living heck. To my parents' credit, they did tell him off for it when they caught him, but they both worked long hours and did not have the energy to deal with our arguments. This continued into adulthood. He was salty that he failed his college course the first time around. There was a bad argument in our family a while ago, and I crap you not. It all started because I refused to decorate my brother's living room. I won't go into too much detail, but he wanted pretty hefty discounts. I said no, and he threw a tantrum. You really need to meet my brother to understand how bad he is, but hopefully this post will do it some justice. Instead of being a grown-up and talking to me, he decided to hook up with my toxic ex-girlfriend and the mother of my child. Due to the rules here, I can't go into a lot of detail about what she was like, but she was not a nice person. She never really bonded with our son when he was born, and I was left to do everything by myself. She eventually walked out on us and refused to have any contact with our son. She'll post on Facebook now and then about her beautiful baby boy to get sympathy votes, but that's about it. I have been a single dad for almost 3 years now, and I absolutely adore my son, but it hurts to think that one day he might question why his mom doesn't want anything to do with him. How am I supposed to explain that to him? Anyways, it bothered me when my brother told me they hooked up together. It hurt even more when he started dating her. It had taken me so long to get over what she did to me and my child, and now my own brother was bringing her back into my life. Yesterday, we had a family video call. Parents are high risk and we're not taking any chances. When my brother decided to announce that he and my ex were expecting, I just froze. I didn't know what to do or think. I could feel myself starting to cry a little bit, and it got a bit harder to breathe. Eventually, I decided just to congratulate them and made up some lie about needing to put my son down for a nap and left. I received a bunch of messages from my brother and his girlfriend telling me that I stole their thunder. After I left, my parents and some other family members started worrying if I was okay and not really focusing on their news. My uncle told me that I should have just been a man and stuck it out instead of making excuses to get out of it. After all, it was expected that our kids would be raised around each other. I feel like maybe I shouldn't have left the call, but at the same time it would have been worse if I stayed on and had a full-blown panic attack in front of everyone. Some of the family members are split and have argued that I won't be able to avoid my brother and his family forever, but others believe that I was in the right to leave the situation. I don't know what to think. So Reddit, am I the antagonist? So taking the case and rushing it over to Decoy Court, honestly, it's such a messed up situation because they're saying like, we're expecting the kids to be raised beside each other. It's like, no, they're not like cousins, they're cousin brothers. Like they both share the same mom, they both share the same mom and also the same family, the parents. Like they're kind of biologically brothers in the sense of, because they came from they had the same grandparents on both sides. That's outrageous. So the idea is they said, oh, you stole our thunder, you stole our thunder. He could have just turned around and said, no, you stole my thunder of having a wife and kids. Now you have that same wife and kids, and now your uncle, brother, cousin, sister, nephew, whatever you're gonna call that's entirely just, this is absurd right now. So yeah, they're complaining that he stole their thunder and they made away from their pregnancy announcement. It's like, well, they should have known that all of this was going to be messy once they decided to start a relationship, when she deserted the brother to get with the other brother to have the same grandparents as the same kid, mother, whatever. I don't even know how to call that, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that OP, you're not the antagonist, and probably, the brother's the antagonist, the girlfriend's the antagonist, the uncle's the antagonist, anybody else in this family that was angry at OP for walking away from the situation because he was about to cry, they're the antagonist as well. But I guess the Decoy Court is, what if this is a situation where this is just a different culture than ours? What if they were living in some place behind Narnia or whatever, where this is how they can consolidate power? I don't know. I don't know what if this is some feudal relationship where they have like kings and queens and they just pass down generations by keeping it all together. I'm at a loss of that. But Decoy Court doesn't have to be a real thing. It just has to be something that defends them. And I think that kind of does the job if they live in feudal Narnia or whatever with Aslan. I guess that's kind of not even relevant, but we'll take a brief recess in Decoy Court. Let me know your thoughts down below on story number 1. Would you be angry that your sibling got with your baby's parent, left you, and then you had to leave a Zoom call? I don't know. So we'll go ahead and shoot over to those top comments right now, which is, not the antagonist, I think you handled the situation as well as you can. Also, really? Your ex is gonna go and date your brother, have a child with him, yet not take responsibility for the child with you? That's really messed up. Super messed up in the idea like, oh, they're supposed to be raised beside each other. It's like, yeah, they should, because the mom needs to be a mother to both kids. OP came back to write, thank you. And yes, she's not a very nice person. I honestly doubt she ever really thinks about our little boy. She's missing out even though he's an amazing baby. Super messed up top to bottom. OP the next post is, not the antagonist. Your kid is going to grow up with half siblings that think they're cousins. His aunt is actually his mom, who wants nothing to do with him. And they're trying to make you look like the antagonist here? Nope, no way, no how, nil, none, no. You are totally in the right here, and you need to protect your kid from the toxic mess of a family. And it is sad though, it's like the kid's going to miss out on having a mom, but also needs to miss out on having the uncle and then the aunt that's also the mom. Like, they just need to walk away from that entire situation. And anybody that wants to drag OP down for being the bad person, for being hurt by this situation, is also needs to be cut off. But let's go ahead and go to the next controversial section to see what the defense is, because they're already saying the opposite. This person says, you're the antagonist, but not for leaving the cold. You're the antagonist because you refuse to do anything to protect yourself and your precious boy from these terrible people. You keep making excuses for your parents, but they failed you and continue to do so. You matter, you matter, you matter, act like it. So this is one of the Reddit switcheroos where they just say, you're not the antagonist, but you are the antagonist because you need to stand up for you, whatever. And the next reply is just somebody saying that, oh yeah, these fake stories, I'm not really interested in that, but a post that got horribly downvoted, which is not going to let me click it because maybe Reddit is just going to protect us from how angry this is, but they said, you're the antagonist for not putting that relevant information into the title just so you can clickbait some more. I mean, whatever. It was a fun story. I enjoyed everything about it. So you're the antagonist this poster because I liked what that story was. Even if it seemed far-fetched, we always want to do those stories because they're more fun. So let's go ahead and shoot over to that second story of the day, which is, am I the antagonist for telling a single mom she needs to stop leaning on me? Reddit has already decided that they are not the antagonist, but I'm going to give that final decision right now. OP writes, I, a 26-year-old male, and had a son, my son Leo, 9 at a young age. My ex is not in the picture, so I'm a single dad. Last year, my son started baseball, and that's where I met another single parent, Jana. We were the only young parents on the team, so it was easier to talk. Most of the other parents had a habit of being judgy. Jana struggled a lot. Every now and then, she didn't have anyone to talk to her son or take her son to practice because her work or her car broke down, so she'd ask me if I could, which I did. When it was her turn to provide snacks for the kids, she sometimes had no money, so I'd pitch in for it. Just want to add, this wasn't a regular thing she did before anyone judges. After the season was over, Leo still hung out with some of his teammates, including her son, so we still saw each other sometimes. Little by little, she started calling me for favors, her son having a dentist/doctor appointment she can't take him to, or needing help organizing his birthday party, picking him up from school when she can't, coming over every weekend, needing me to help with his homework or school project, etc. When she dropped off her son at my house so the boys can hang out, she'd stay too and just vent about her problems. Lots of it I related, so it didn't bother me at first, but that's all we talked about. Then she'd call me throughout the day to have these 30 to 40 minute chats about her stuff, and I'd have to tell her I'm busy at work or with my son. And look, I get it. Being a single parent is rough. I was exactly where she was in the past, and it's suffocating. It's good to finally have someone to talk it out with, but calling me late at night or multiple times a day when I'm busy dealing with my own life, just to vent, gets exhausting, especially when she asks me to do stuff for her son like it's expected of me, or she gets mad when I tell her I can't talk. I had to draw the line. So I talked to her. I said I'm fine with us being friends, but she needs to understand that I have my own life and can't drop everything to be her emotional support or be an extra parent to her son when I have my own to take care of. There are parent groups I'm sure she could join where she could be heard. I just don't got that time or energy for her to lean on me on a daily basis. Janet was pretty upset to the point where it sounded like she was crying when I told her, and she said she can't believe how unsympathetic I'm being over what she's going through. That she thought I was her friend, but it seems like I'm like everyone else in her life who only wants to be around at their convenience. I didn't get a chance to say anything before she hung up and wouldn't answer my calls anymore. I feel so bad for upsetting her when I just wanted to stop this from going any further. Not like I yelled, was just serious about my feelings, but I'm wondering if I'm now the antagonist. I'm really confused and feel guilty for putting this on her. So taking the case and rushing over to Decoy Court, it is a situation where it's good. They were both single parents going through the same thing. Their kids are friends, so they're going to spend time together. It's not unheard of for them to help them, take them around for like, oh yeah, I'll help you out with some snacks. I'll drop them off to practice. They'll be hanging out. You can bring them over here. We'll vent. We'll talk about being single parents, whatever it may be. But I guess across the line when he's taking them to doctor's appointments and he's also like, is expected to answer the phone whenever she wants to vent about anything. So it makes sense that he's just like, you know what? I'm not your best friend. I'm not your boyfriend. I'm not your, sit-in husband. Stop it. And then the idea is everything you need to know about this is like how she tried to start crying when he said, hey, I'm going to draw some boundaries because we're just friends. And then said, oh, I can't believe how unsympathetic you're being. That's kind of a weird thing to project onto OP, saying like you're unsympathetic as if this was somehow his responsibility that he's not stepping up to the plate more. No, he's just a guy that has a kid that's in the same Little League or baseball team they're on. So I mean, it makes sense that he's not the antagonist in this situation, and maybe she's a little the antagonist over here. But I would go ahead and say that maybe the Decoy defense, what would make him the antagonist, saying like, oh, you're just like everyone else in my life who only wants her around at their convenience? Could it be possibly that they were hooking up, where there was more to this relationship, where they were romantically involved, and now he wants to pump the brakes, like, you know what? I'm kind of bored of this, and I don't want to hear your problems anymore. Had fun hanging out with you, had fun, doing the whole co-parenting thing, but now it's time to move on. And it kind of sounds more like a breakup. Now, granted, Decoy defense doesn't have to be accurate, but honestly, that would make sense that if they were more romantically involved and he's breaking up with her, because that's what it looks like. Well, on the surface, maybe, but I don't really believe that either. So, I mean, let me know on the brief recess we take in Decoy Court. Let me know down below what you're thinking of story number 2. When can you draw some boundaries, and when is being what would constitute being too harsh in this situation? But as always, let's go ahead and shoot over to those top comments right now, which is not the antagonist. Boundaries are important. And the next person says this: don't break down your boundaries too much. Otherwise, what's the point of having them in the first place? And it's true. It's like, I think that they were having a good time and they were like, doing the whole helping each other out as both single parents. But at some point in time, he's like, okay, you're treading on what I don't want, which is reasonable. The next top comment was not the antagonist, and the I guess you're like everyone else lets you know that she doesn't care about anyone else's boundaries either. This is unambiguously a her thing, not a you thing. And that's the thing, is if she's equating him to being like everybody else in her life, like, oh, you don't want to be there for me, you don't put me first. It's like, well, why would some random guy in a Little League team put you first? And that's kind of like their train of thought. So that would kind of illustrate more about them than OP. So I understand why OP feels like they're the bad guy, but it really can't be put on their conscience. So we'll go ahead and go over to those controversial comments, which is not the antagonist. She's a parasite. Don't let her guilt trip you. Very true. And the next reply is no antagonist here. I could see why she's upset, but it's okay for her to be human. It's okay for you too. Ideally, I think you should have had this talk with her way earlier, but hindsight is 20/20 and all that. You did a lot of nice things for her, which, if she was in a good place, would have just been that. Nice things. You helped her with things like dental appointments. You listened to her problems. To most people with good mental health, that's just being a good friend. But with someone vulnerable with poor boundaries, that could be a sign of intimacy. Very true. Personally, I could tell she was vulnerable with poor boundaries from the start of your post. If there's anything you did wrong, it was that you misjudged that. But it was a misjudgment, not you being the antagonist here. Maybe reflect on that in the future. I suspect you were being a little vulnerable yourself, to feeling appreciated and having someone you relate to. And it meant that you didn't see that your actions had more meaning than you intended. On top of that, it sounds like it would be pretty hard for a normal person to understand what your limit was. You didn't mind her venting about her problems up to a certain point, and then you did. Try to see that from a point of view. You're suddenly upset for her for doing something that she's been doing all along. That's a horrible feeling. Okay, so this is just gonna go and go. Oh my god. So yeah, I understand why that was a downvoted post right there, because it just kept on going on the same point over and over. But the idea is you can't really be responsible for other people's lack of social awareness or their developing of feelings, because if you're just going to be a mean person to everybody because you don't want, oh, I don't know if you're mature enough to have just a friendship, like a platonic friendship, so I'm going to treat you mean because I don't want you catching those feelings. It's like, it's not OP's responsibility. So I see why that's a controversial comment. But let's go ahead and go to that third and final story, which is, am I the antagonist for bringing a bridesmaid ex as a wedding date? OP says, okay, so the title makes me sound like the antagonist, but my close friend, a 22-year-old female, is having a small wedding in December. I'm a bridesmaid, as is her other friend. Let's call her Hyacinth. Hyacinth and I have never gotten along. She used to date my boyfriend and always thought I wasn't classy enough for him. So you think I'm bringing my boyfriend, right? In which case she wouldn't get over it. But no, my boyfriend lives in another country, so I invited a male friend, Oleander, as a +1. Hyacinth has also dated Oleander while they were at the same local university. I mentioned in passing that I was planning on bringing him, saying, oh, it won't be an awkward, right? Since I assumed the break was mutual. She's seeing someone else now, and she flipped out, accusing me of trying to ruin her life. I was still jealous about her and my boyfriend. I was jealous because I looked like a woman of the evening in the dress, all kinds of stuff. At this point, I was like, okay, fine, geez, I'll bring my imaginary friend Bud. According to my boyfriend, the breakup hit Hyacinth pretty hard, and she was actually calling him up crying afterwards, since they're family friends, which is super uncharacteristic for her. My boyfriend told me in confidence, crying that none of these people on Reddit, lol, and Hyacinth had gotten pregnant and wanted a family with him. But Oleander didn't see himself marrying her and broke it off, saying he'd pay child support or co-parent / fully parent if she decided to keep it, but she ended up not. Not anyone's fault, but I completely get how that's not something anyone would want to wish to or remind of during a wedding. By this point, I had told the bride, Rose, that I was bringing Oleander, unaware of this history, and she was like, yes, that's amazing. We all knew each other back in high school and were in the same club. But that had drifted enough that he didn't merit an invite to a small event. But Rose was super excited to see him and catch up. I guess she liked the idea of having more of the old crowd there at a wedding. Oleander wants to go and see Rose get married since she's the first of our set to do so. So either take him and dredge up bad memories for Hyacinth during what's supposed to be a happy occasion, or bail on him and disappoint Rose. It would also be nice to have someone to hang out with at the wedding, since most of the guests are the groom's friends. Rose is a pretty private person, and the other two bridesmaids are the groom's sister and cousin. Hyacinth only made the lineup because she's the only other girl in our club, and Rose reached out for old time's sake. Would I be the antagonist for bringing him? I feel like I'm living in a soap opera at this point. So taking the case and rushing over to Decoy Court is it's a situation where this is a wedding for the bride and not Hyacinth, if that is your real name, Hyacinth, whatever. But I mean, the idea is, yes, if that's what the Rose wants, the bride, you do it for them. You say, hey, everybody else, suck it up. It's her special day. Just let it be. I could see why you wouldn't want to do that because she's still not over that person, but she's dating somebody else. She's either able to let it go or just be wrapped up in that old relationship forever. Understand there's a bit of history there, but I mean, you got to let other people live their lives. So I'm going to go ahead and say, OP, you're not the antagonist. I don't even think that Hyacinth would be the antagonist because she has an emotional attachment to somebody like that. And also Oleander and all those other. I guess there's no antagonists here in this situation, but I guess in the case of decoy defense, what would be the inverse of this is why the heck are they only dating people they knew from like the same original 5 people in the group? What is this? I never saw Friends, but to my understanding, the television show Friends, everyone dated everyone, and that's what this right here. Like just branch out, move to a new city, meet other people, don't date everybody and marry everybody from the same original friend group. I guess that doesn't make anybody the opposite, doesn't make everyone suck here, but I mean, that's a way to put it. So we'll go ahead and take a brief recess. Let me know your thoughts in the Decoy Koi Pond down below for story number 3. Should you bring your high school friend's ex-boyfriend who has extensive history, even though you're dating their ex and they're angry, but that's in another country, but a family friend? I don't know. It's so convoluted right now, but let me know your thoughts down below on story number 3, and we'll shoot over to that top comment right now saying, not the antagonist, quoting the idea that Rose and Oleander have history, and they said bride happy equals no wedding issue. Well, there may be wedding issues, but I mean, bride happy is the most important thing in the wedding. And then OP says, I need more information. Do you live somewhere where there's only 4 people to date? And then OP says, small town, small high school, LOL. Being back here post-lockdown is an uncomfortable throwback, at least the grooms from Vermont. Okay, so I understand that, where you have this small town where there is, like, they accuse them of only having 4 people to date, and they just pretty much confirmed it, like, yeah, small town, there was only 4 people to date. So I guess you can't blame them for just being like, okay, well, there's only a couple people here, we're all gonna know each other, all be family friends, so it kind of makes sense. So you can't hold that against OP for having some small town living. Let's go ahead and shoot over to those controversial comments where they said, not the antagonist. If the bride is cool with it, then do it. You're not responsible for anyone else's baggage. It's a callous way to put it, but I think it's an accurate way to put it. The next top comment is, or controversial comment is, you're the antagonist for so many different reasons. First of all, this is not going to be a lockdown safe wedding if you bring a +1 who isn't close to family, who hasn't been in your bubble, all that, but moving on. You found out that the other bridesmaid has bad memories with this guy. It's irrelevant or not you get along with this, as this day is not about you. You conveniently forgot to mention the whole drama to the bride. If you bring this friend, and it does seem pretty petty to bring him, to be honest, you are guaranteed to piss off one of the bridesmaids, and the bride will know, which will in turn add a ton of negativity to someone else's big day. Are you sure you want to be the source of the potential drama? And I understand that because this is OP, stirring the pot when it doesn't need to be, but by bringing someone there and she doesn't want to be lonely, that's not a good enough reason. But honestly, I feel like this conversation could be had with the bridesmaid Hyacinth as well. Like, do you want to be the source of all this drama, or you can just get over it and let the bride enjoy her special day with her friends on her one and only special day, possibly several others depending on what her view on divorce is. But the idea is, yeah, no. I don't think that this is going on OP. As long as Rose wants it, ask her. Maybe to clear themselves of all guilt, just go up to Rose and say, hey, just so you know, Hyacinth, if that is her real name, we should probably verify that. Even though we all came from the small town, we should verify if this is going to be okay with her and Rose, everybody going to play nicely, that sort of thing. So I mean, that's my thoughts on story number 3. Let me know in the Decoy Court pond down below if you agree with that. But as always, if you like the video, you like the way I do these Reddit read podcast style stuff, make sure you subscribe below, turn on the notifications so you can get to know whenever I'm going to drop a video, which is every single day at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. But if anything else, just go ahead and like the video or share the channel overall. But as always, if you don't want to do any of that, that's okay. I'm cool with it. Just make sure you put this on autoplay and check out the next episode of DecoyNoise coming up next.